Okay, we are live. Hello, hello, everyone, Trailblazing families and maybe traveling circus families. It's Liz here, and I've got an awesome couple who have done something really interesting. And I have to say, I had well over 20 people RSVP for this live. They don't all show up, but still, there's a lot of interest in what you guys are doing. So we've got Jeremiah and Abigail Kovacs, correct?
Totally right.
You guys are Americans who have been traveling for a while. So let us know a little bit about your background, where you're from, the age of your kids, how many kids you have, and that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. So we're actually kind of, I feel like we're a little bit of newbies. It may not feel that way. We started traveling around the US in 2019, just before COVID. And then we started world schooling at the end of 2021, right? Or I don't forget the years, but we've only been doing this like a year and a half, actually world schooling. So we're pretty new in the grand scheme of things. But we have we have two boys. They're 6 years old and 8 years old. And it's been a journey of like trying to figure out where are we gonna, wanting to see the world and have family and wanting to bring friends along. But we got to take care of school. What are we gonna do? And I think Abigail has done an amazing job of just being creative, and I think the overarching thing is just like trying to figure out how do we get the best of all the worlds. And I think that's
I think that's really where the idea came from, so we're really new to the world schooling space, and I wouldn't say we weren't interested in homeschooling. And so one thought we had was maybe we can pop around to different hubs and schools and do kind of that type of thing. But as I started looking into that further, I was like, it's kind of a lot of work to reapply to these different hubs. And so in schools, we did find a school that we enjoyed, but we wanted to see more places. And we were talking back and forth, and I was like, if we were independently wealthy, we could just hire a private tutor and hire our friend, and she could just travel with us and teach the boys, and then we'd be done with school, and all we'd have to worry about is where do we want to go. And then he came back and he was like, well, who's to say we can't do that, so if we can find enough, maybe we can find enough parents and families to split the price of a teacher, then we can hire one and travel together. And that's really where the idea came from, was just trying to figure out
That's amazing
how we can have both.
It's such a creative solution, because again, my kids and I, we've been traveling for about 6+ years, and we've done local schools. I've unschooled them. They've done online school. We've gone to world school hubs. We've tried a lot of the different things that you're mentioning, but I haven't yet tried what you've done. I think what you're doing is amazing, and I want to learn more about it. I don't think I would ever organize something like that, but maybe somebody else will for teenagers, or maybe you guys will for teenagers, because I have 14-year-olds, twins. And I would love to be part of that. So where did you guys first meet this teacher? Because you said you met her in one of the hubs you were at, yes?
Yeah. So you want to share?
Sure. Yeah. So we went to our first world schooling venture was to the Hive in Capura, Dominican Republic. There's a school there called the Hive, and we really liked the communal aspect of living there. And at that school was was a teacher that our kids really loved and had an amazing relationship with. And her time was kind of coming to a close at the Hive. And I was like, hey, what are you doing after this? And it just kind of like the stars sort of aligned in that way. It's like a really beautiful relationship, and the availability was there. So she had already kind of was in the schooling space, and
So you found her and you liked the way she was teaching. I hope my internet is okay. But you liked the way she was teaching, and we can go a little bit more into the kind of the philosophy of the education. But then you had to find other families to chip in to be able to afford her. So how did you go about that?
We just kind of threw together a website with our idea, and Jeremiah owns a business and I have spent some time learning about copy and marketing. And so we just, while we were at the Hive, our time was ending and we were heading back home for Christmas. And our teacher who we had arranged to travel with, her name's Beth, her time with the Hive was going to end in mid-February. So we had about a little, we're like, okay, let's head home for the holidays. And if we have the students that we need by January, we're good to go. And if not, then great idea, but there's no demand. So we kind of whipped up a little website with our idea and we put it out there to.
Might be down. Sorry, my internet's not so great, but you guys keep going, keep going.
Okay. We put it out there to some Facebook groups and yeah, the applications just kind of came in.
Awesome. So now, sorry, you guys are both working, yes? So which is why you didn't want to homeschool, or you just wanted to have a teacher, correct?
Yeah, so I'm currently, I just started working, but at the time I wasn't working. But I just, yeah, I found myself, I think we're naturally creatives and creators and like to do things through creativity. And I found myself as I was homeschooling my boys, I just noticed that I was putting my creativity into other projects and not so much into their education. And I wanted to give them a creative education and an opportunity to have that type of attention. And so I think I kind of had to have a come to Jesus moment that I don't really think homeschooling is my cup of tea. And I know we all have different philosophies around education, and we have unschoolers who we love and respect. So just my philosophy and what I wanted to give my boys was just a bit more creative attention. And that's what I found in Beth and the teacher we have now, Adriana. They just, that's their mode of being is falling in love with kids and bringing their creative energy through education and through helping them thrive and learn and grow. And so that's really why I was like wanting to bring in kind of like a partner, you know, that's really how we see the teachers is they partner with the parents, and actually each parent individually hires the teacher. So from the outside, it looks like maybe we run a school, but really we're just the organizers of a community, and each community member individually hires the teacher to travel. And we just attract community members we try to attract community members with the same education values as ourselves. So.
Right. Okay. So basically, who came up with the education philosophy? Was it you guys and the teacher, Adriana, or was it her and like she had her thing and you liked what she had to offer, or what was it? Because I'm guessing it started with the three of you and then you put it out there in the world and you tried to find people with kids age 5 to 10 because you have an age range that also liked that philosophy, correct? Or do you take input from other families?
Yeah, so I think we had some initial ideas and principles, and we just collaborated with Beth at the time was our first teacher. She's on a year-long break, and Adriana is filling that gap. But yeah, it's been an iterative process, right? It's like this, we're trying to take from the best of a lot of different philosophies, right? Of like child-centered education and a bit of project-based learning, a bit of experience-based learning, because we're traveling around all these places. Why don't we use the locations as focal points for exploring the world and exploring ideas, and you know, we weave you know, core subjects, so to speak. We just weave that into our everyday experience in terms of the places that we're at. So anyways, it was a really fluid and kind of organic thing. And to be transparent, it's not like super figured out. It's not like this thing that we have really specific curriculum ideas about. It's something that we're iterating and growing on and getting feedback from people and kind of figuring out where do we sit in the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say Beth and us just naturally were more aligned around a balance between support and self-directed learning. But that's, like he said, that is something that comes up. We've noticed the past year, probably the hardest thing that we've dealt with the past year is communicating education values, because I think the alternative education space is such a new area that a lot of people, we will use the same words to describe totally different things. And I've even seen that in Facebook groups about the traveling circus, where I've observed as a third party, two parents talking about the traveling circus using the same word. And I know both parents, but they don't know one another. And I know they have actually different education values, and they're using, I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think
the term, like one of them said they consider the traveling circus academic, and they're like, I know the other one would not consider it academic. So there's that bit of like, it's been a process, like navigating like what are these terms, what do they mean, and how do we flesh them out in everyday life?
Yeah, I know that's kind of a vague answer, but
yeah. Well, I did take a look at your website, and I do like, I mean, obviously you have 5 and 10-year-olds. You don't need to be super duper academic for those years, but you do have a nice mix of play-based learning, self-directed learning, lots of creative things, reading, writing, and math, the basics, and project-based learning. And then the world schooling, the excursions out there, getting out there in the real world. So I think you guys, I mean, if it's true, that's what you guys are doing. I think it's actually a really wonderful blend of different ways to learn. And you're also, I think I read somewhere that you're all the kids are trying to learn Spanish, so it's kind of good that you pick one language. Are you still continuing with the Spanish?
Yeah, they are.
I did hear them singing a Spanish song this morning.
Yeah,
but we are in
okay,
Portugal.
good.
We're in Portugal right now, and so I think Adriana's trying to bring in some Portuguese too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One of my members of my Facebook group couldn't come, but she kind of had a similar question that I did about, who decides how to do this. And she wrote, what decision-making style do the families use together? How do they coordinate the teachers? Meaning, does the organizing couple, you two, decide what's taught and how, or do all the families participating use consensus? I'm very intrigued and interested in this lifestyle, but the idea of a dozen people making decisions together sounds exhausting. So how do you guys make decisions about, where to go and, what to do during the week, or, I don't know, there must be lots of different decisions that you have to make. How do you go about that?
That is a good question. And I've actually sat with myself and I'm like, what have I done, Abigail? So many opinions and choices. I think year 2, we're coming on year 2. So the project is just made a year old. And I think just within the past 2 months or so, we've attracted families who just kind of go together a bit more easily than the past families we've had in the group. Not to, like, we love every family who's come through. But it's a good question that a lot of us have different values around education, around travel, around decision making. And I tend to be a very collective minded person. And so I think that in a way has added extra stress to my plate the past year. But we're kind of at a place now where everyone kind of gives and takes, right? Around education, I'd say we kind of have taken the hiring position of hiring a teacher. And Beth, our original teacher who we hired, is coming back in the fall. So around hiring a teacher, we've kind of, I guess, steered that ship, and then creating with them a schedule to share with families, trying to communicate what they can expect. We're still working on getting better at communicating what they can expect. But so in that sense, I'd say we've kind of established the general idea of the type of education. Around location planning, that is something that's ebbed and flow. Originally, the first year, the big countries, we picked out ourselves. We're just like,
tell us where you were your first year.
We went to Guatemala, Ecuador, and Peru. So we picked out those big countries. I planned Guatemala and Ecuador, those locations, but then Peru, we ended up bringing in some community members to sort out. That got a little hectic. That was I kind of went open door, anybody come. And that was just a lot of opinions, and a lot of, that ended up being a bit too stressful. So then we kind of
in the kitchen.
Yeah, then we took it back a little bit further where well, how about if you can see yourself traveling with us for the next year, then you can join our travel planning committee and we'll kind of do some planning together. And so right now in the community, we have in Portugal with us now, we have a good handful of families who see themselves being with us for the next school year or the next calendar year and kind of beyond. So we're actually planning a big picture travel for the next year and a half now. And I kind of think we've settled on our locations relatively quickly, just because, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things, I think it takes time to maybe attract some core families with similar values. But once you do, it just kind of, it's starting to flow. I know that's not really a satisfying answer, which is why we're not planning to have another pod. Like, we're just trying to sort out how can we make what we want, and maybe we'll figure out the answer. But right now we're just,
you guys are the originating family, so you're trying to find like-minded families who will go along with your plan. And of course you're open to ideas, but it's too hard to have everyone, have a say, because then you'd never get a decision made. Okay, that sounds awesome. And you guys are in Portugal, you were in Spain, and then you're going to Ireland next, correct? And you've got some other places in Europe that you're going to hop around, correct?
Yes, we're in Europe for the next foreseeable future.
Europe-ish, because
okay.
With visa requirement, you have to flow in and out if you're a non
Schengen shuffle. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, again, we've been to Turkey. I mean, Bulgaria is great. Morocco is great. There's so many places outside the Schengen that are wonderful, and of course the UK and Ireland. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit more about your school and how it goes. Does the teacher and the assistant travels with you, or do you find like a local person? Because I know the head teacher travels with you.
So we've iterated on it, and I think that's maybe the broader thing here is like all of this is just an iteration of we try something out in one country and if it's working, like our decision-making frameworks are changed, how we plan locations. And the same thing is true for the assistants is at first Beth had someone that she knew from the Hive that was it. And then the next place we found someone local. I think in Ecuador and Peru, we found someone local. This year we're in Europe. Adriana, our teacher for this phase, she had a family member that a cousin that was on a gap year, and just worked out really well for her to come travel for an extended period of time. So anyways, it's we kind of flowed in and out with different.
That's good. And then the two teachers, the head teacher and the assistant, they basically create all the learning, or do the kids ever go online and learn via different apps, like Khan Academy or Duolingo or whatever?
Yeah. So the way we have it set up is that in the mornings, the kids have, Adriana calls them focus time. I think Beth calls them individual learning time. Either way, it's more of a time if a parent does want their child to go through a certain type of curriculum, that is the time to do it. And so it's an hour set aside each day. But yeah, so my kids do Beast Academy online for math. Some kids have done Khan Academy. We have kids doing Explode the Code, or just Adriana sits and does a reading lesson with them, just different things like that during that time. But no, we don't have like a traveling circus curriculum or anything like that.
Yeah. No, but it's just a week or so ago, I interviewed Janelle Schroy, and she and her 4 kids are big on learning online, tons of apps and an online school. They're like heavy users. And of course they go out in the real world and do stuff, and they're outdoors, but just, there's so many ways to learn online these days versus 10 years ago. So I was just wondering if you guys did that. Okay, so you started talking about a day in your life, because that was my question. And I also want to talk about the weekly schedule. So the kids come in the morning now, and you rent an Airbnb that you use as the school, right? Is that where you guys live, or the teacher lives, or how does that work?
It changes generally. Like I think most of the time we've stayed there, or the teachers stayed there.
Or another family member.
yeah.
Right now, where we're at, we're renting a collection of Airbnbs near each other.
They're all connected, actually.
And so we actually ended up in the schoolhouse, and Adriana's next door, but we go over and work in a different house and kind of come back.
Yeah. So there's a designated
Yeah.
schoolhouse, and that's kind of like drives the logistics too of like, where's our schoolhouse going to be, and are there enough houses around the ideal location for the schoolhouse that it can support the whole community. So that's yeah, anyways. And then the kids come. Right now we're on a 10 to 3 schedule every day, Monday through Thursday, and then Fridays are like excursion days. I guess technically on Wednesday they do like a little short half day or a quarter day small excursion, but for the most part it's like Monday through Thursday they're hanging around the schoolhouse, and then on Friday we have like a capstone kind of experience to go see. And so they'll weave that, like we just went to this beautiful aquarium in Lisbon, and they wove that into their week last week was so anyways, yeah, that we could drill down into that if you want, but that's a highlight of like.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We've got, I think you have 5 weeks on and then 1 week off to kind of transition to the next location. And I don't know, do you do like some sightseeing then?
Yeah, it's just
whatever
kind of
families want to do.
Yeah, it's we, that's it. We've iterated on that too. We started out 3 and 1 because for us, we like, I think maybe we want to travel 3 months and then go back to our home base for a month. But then we realized like not every family wants to break for a month at the same time in the same way that we do. So then now we've transitioned to kind of a 5-1-5-1 kind of schedule. And so yeah, we're just kind of we're going along right now. I'm enjoying this. Like I think so. We spent 5 weeks in Spain, took a week off. During that week off, several families went to another area of Spain, Alicante, on the ocean, and so we got to see another part and kind of sightsee around a little bit. And then now we're back here in Portugal for 5 weeks. So
are all the parents working, or are some kind of taking a break or a sabbatical from their careers or businesses?
Most, it's a mix. Most do work. We have a few who are taking a break, 2 moms. We actually have a lot of parents traveling solo with us. So a lot of single parents are not even necessarily single all the time, just through traveling.
They're solo traveling.
I meet lots of married moms whose husbands can't travel and they travel with the kids. So they're still called solo parents, I guess, at the time. Yeah. So that's cool. Yeah. Okay. So I was wondering also if the teacher keeps track of what the kids are learning, if there's any type of transcript. And the reason why is if these kids want to return to school, I mean, they're too young to think about university, but are some of your families thinking about doing like this with you guys for a year and then going back to the school system, or are they going to be world schooling forever?
You know, we haven't really had any families who are like, we're planning to go back at this time. We've had a good bit of families who've come directly from public school to us, as in like, they like the idea of joining this group.
That must be an interesting transition for them.
Yeah, I think having that focus time is helpful for them. But even then we've had a lot of, I've heard so many from this is way too structured to this isn't structured enough, you know? So it's an interesting, I think, I don't even remember the original question.
Anyway, it's about transcripts or.
Right now we don't have any formal
everyone's
transcript
just
process in place.
I guess licensed, just homeschooled.
Yeah. Homeschooling, world schooling. Again, if anyone has questions about this, I mean, basically the families are out of their country, so there's no like government jurisdiction over them. But you know, some families do like to keep track because they might want to go back to the public school system, and if so, it might be a good idea for somebody. They can even put together a transcript. You guys don't have to. I was just curious. Yeah, I was just
because
kids had a portfolio or whatever.
Because each of us is hiring the teacher individually. If a mom or dad really wants their kid to follow, I want them to finish this curriculum by the end of this time, our teacher will do their best to support the kid through that during the focus time. But it's a give and take where the parents are pretty see the teacher as a partner, right? And so it's a lot of
a case by, I think that's the kind of
case.
thing where the teacher can put something together in a case by case situation.
Yeah, so I'm imagining you need a teacher who can be really adaptable and flexible to all the different families' needs and desires, but also there's limitations. They can't do everything. I did read on your website that you have certain expectations for the students that enroll that you can't handle, which is understandable. Any kids with developmental disabilities, learning disabilities, whatnot. And I was like, I have one kid that has ADHD. So I'm like, nope, can't focus, can't stay still. So she would not qualify, but I think that is smart that you do that. It's unfortunate, but as a super small school, you're going to need to have kids who can participate, and focus.
Yeah, we
and not need extra help.
Yeah, we wouldn't even have thought to put that. That was our teacher who their teachers really do care about the kids and want the kids to thrive. And just, there's a little small schoolhouse with 10 to 12 other kids, everyone kind of doing their own thing. I mean, my kids, they probably bounce around the whole time, but it's definitely
Can I jump in? I'd say it's at the end of the day, the heart of that idea that Beth, when she brought it up, is just that if someone needs extra resources, like one-on-one time and attention throughout the entire day, that's really important, and we don't want to deprive them of that. And the school being as small and intimate as it is, it's not so much about ruining the experience for other kids as it is about making sure the kids get the support that they need. And we just don't have enough resources to go around to give a child, if they do need a significant amount of one-on-one support throughout the day. So I think
that's understandable, I think. And with a daughter who has ADHD and she needs some extra attention. So what are the main benefits that you guys have found after a year or so running Traveling Circus? What has that brought your family in particular?
I'd say community. We have a big group of family who all live close by each other in the States, and pulling the kids away to travel at first was really painful for them, and it was a lot of moaning and groaning, but coming to Portugal and knowing that their school friends were going to be here and their travel friends, and hearing our youngest, he's 6, say like, I'm so excited to be on the plane and going see my friends. The people this past year has definitely been the best part. Everyone who's come in and out, some have stayed, some have not, some were like, you're crazy, some were like, we love this. Just meeting everybody, it has definitely been the highlight of my year.
I feel like for me, I feel like one of the biggest benefits has been like soft landings, and when you go to a new area, it's just like everything, there's a micro culture shock, right? It's like a brand new place. I don't even know where the grocery store is. I don't know how to get around here. Like, what am I doing? And that's the fun of travel in some ways, but it's like when you're solo parenting particularly, or just you're working and trying to travel, being able to share that burden with other people has been really, really nice. And I think too, I get it. I know, like, we're talking about what are we going to do for our next break, and we're talking about going to Madrid or Barcelona or something just in that little short window. And I was thinking, but there's not going to be anybody else there. Like, I've realized I've developed this comfort of being able to travel with other people. At least for me, it puts me at ease in a way that I didn't anticipate would happen. It's like, I'm going to be here with 5 or 6 other people, and there's a sense of comfort and continuity in the midst of a lot of change, and that's been nice.
It's not as scary, going to a totally new environment. So that's awesome. Okay, what are some of the challenges that you've had in the past, year or so?
I'd say, like I touched on, education has been a really big pain point, and more about communicating. and even what do we mean when we say self-directed learning, or what do we mean when we say academic? And just, I would say the alternative education space is such a new space that some of these terms get used in totally different ways. And that just from being a noob, you know, like our kids are 5 and 7 when we started. So so new to school, that definitely has been the biggest challenge this year.
And education too is one of those things where people have different opinions, but they typically feel really strongly about them too, right? Like your education is not something that you, like if it's not going to plan, you don't just like, oh, well, it'll get better, you know? So I think that creates an interesting dynamic of how do you create a consistent program that's tailored to specific parents' needs? And you got it, just sorting all of that out's definitely been a challenge. I'd say the other side, like in the same way that all of our biggest strengths are often our biggest weaknesses, the community aspect is that I feel like it's been the biggest strength and the nice part of it, but it's also been the hardest part, right? Of like, on a regular basis, like making decisions on next travel locations where everyone feels included and people don't feel excluded, and you know, just like that
basically the whole thing.
I mean, it's like there's a coordination aspect of this, and there's people and opinions, and like it's a mess. It's kind of a hot, beautiful mess. It's kind of how I think about it. Like, and that's what life
you're not running this as a business. You're just having all the parents pay tuition to the teacher. So, I mean, maybe you should charge like an administrative fee, because you guys are taking on many, many hours, I would think,
actually,
trying to coordinate.
So we actually have shifted a really big, it's become a lot more community based, because that's something I don't want to work for my friends, and I don't want to work for my community. And I think actually, as this has been such a crazy year, because I think when we started, everyone did look to me as the organizer, which we did organize it. But I think we're just really catching friction or around the idea of community, and what does it mean to take ownership in an idea that someone else came up with, but you want to join. And so even though, community has been, I think that's really has been the biggest pain, is just finding families who resonate with the idea and want to bring their strengths to build on top of this idea, instead of, because it isn't a hub, and it isn't the same type of world schooling experience that maybe most are used to, where we're not the travel planners, or I mean, we're collaborators, but it isn't a job for us. It's all volunteer.
So
but I definitely think it takes unique personalities that we just so happen to have that to start something like this. But
I think we'll play around with bringing in administrative support. We're floating around different ideas of bringing in outside administrative support that the community pays for, or versus finding a way to divvy out the administration to everybody that feels fair. So we're a working process for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, you've only been doing it for what a year and a half so far.
Just made a year.
Celebrate a year.
And the idea was about 2 months old before it actually happened.
Wow. You did it really quickly. That's amazing. Because I would imagine that, you've got these people you've never met before participating, and maybe not, the kids might not all get along, or the parents. I mean, most world schooling families are awesome, but there's different types of people you might not see eye to eye. So that might be a little bit of a challenge, because, especially if you're committing to traveling together for the term or the year or whatnot. I know you guys are fairly new to it, but can you talk about any big lessons that you've learned just from world schooling in general? Or maybe what do you now know that you wish you knew when you first started out?
That's a good question.
You're looking up in the air, so you're really thinking hard.
No.
I want to take this opportunity to ask the people watching to please chat, type in your questions. I mean, so far, we've just had people say good morning, and sounds like decision making is very organic, grassroots, group specific, and requires lots of flexibility and grace. And then Another person said, love traveling circus concept, could not join this year, but hopefully in the future. But yeah, so I mean, think about like, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you started, or like big, aha moments, lessons that you've learned?
I feel like one of the first things that comes to mind is, and I feel like I see this in a lot of the groups too, is there's often like can be a divergence between the parents' vision for this lifestyle and the kids' vision for it and their experience. And I think that's one of the things we wrestled a little bit, where it's like, all right, we're free, we're going to travel the world. And our boys are like, yeah, but I kind of just want to live on a boring street in a boring town in a boring house with a dog and a trampoline.
He's quoting
like that's word for word something like
what our 8-year-old told us.
And so
one of my kids is the same situation. So I've got twins. One loves to travel. The other one wants to be with grandma for a little bit. So that's what we're doing right now.
So I think that's been a lesson learned is, again, relationships are the most beautiful things in our life and the most difficult to navigate. And I think internally in the inside of the family unit, that same kind of dynamics exist, where maybe the parents are having a great time, but the kids aren't, or vice versa. And so it's like trying things out, keeping the conversations going, asking, okay, will you disagree with me, but commit to doing this year, and next year we'll do this other thing. Like, just that process has been hard. And
how to communicate.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's something world schooling has forced us to think about. What do we want? Like, what do we want in the world? Because it's like, when the whole world opens up to you, where do you go and why? So I just think it's been a massive tool for personal discovery, just individually for me, but also for our family. What do we care about? And so it's been enriching and difficult all at the same time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was gonna say kind of, I guess, similar, but being patient around acclimating to this lifestyle and just sorting out what you want. Like I notice a lot of the Facebook posts are looking for the perfect school or the perfect place or the perfect experience, and that doesn't exist. Like, like we're just still ourselves, just in a different country. We still have our same issues, just in a different country, and usually it's magnified. So just being patient and knowing that this is just everyday life, just in a different place. And I've created my dream, and it's still not perfect, So it's just like, even if you're the person in charge of your own idea and making it happen, you're still, contentment comes from within.
It's a work in progress.
I think, like patience.
The patient thing I can totally identify, because years ago when I was a younger person, before I had kids, I backpacked around the world. And, I think I left San Francisco, and, again, I was being this American corporate kind of career gal who's used to good service. And then when you travel, you don't always get good service. So I really had to learn to chill out and not be a Karen. Not that I was ever a Karen, but just like not expect perfect, fast, friendly service like you do in the States. And just being, the whole cultural situation, like adapting to the culture and the flow of that country. And years later, when I see newbies coming from, especially the States, and they're getting all upset or whatever, irritated at this, I'm like, well, just welcome to Bulgaria or wherever we are. You really do need to learn to be patient and adaptable.
Yeah.
Travel is so kind of idolized and really, and it has a lot of beautiful things, but it's tough too. And I don't know, it's hard to get that across in an Instagram post,
Yeah. And we're not living in resorts and just on a short little holiday, we're living kind of like, maybe like locals, or at least temporary expats. So we're really immersing ourselves in the local community. Well, I really love this idea. I think a lot of people do. I love that it's like a combo of a hub and a school and a social community, and it's nomadic. It's great for the kids as well as the adults. So you guys are saying you don't want to expand on this idea and form other traveling circus groups, yes? Or would you? Because I just want to mention, I'm going to be interviewing Rachel Carlson, And she started creating these World School pop-up hubs for a week. You probably heard of them, right? So anyway, she created a website like
Our
you guys
families
did.
is actually leading the Japan pop-up hub that just kicked off with her. So
Oh, awesome.
Really?
Well, so again, she came up with the idea, she started hosting them, and then now she's kind of spurred other parents to kind of pick up the idea and, you know, use her platform. She promotes and she takes a small admin fee and then they charge whatever. Would you guys ever consider that?
You know, I don't know. Like we have attracted families. Our school is full, and
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're full. You don't need any more customers.
everyone with us now, you know, they're
Other
having,
participants.
yeah, they're hosting a book club right now while the kids play and they're drinking wine, and we have attracted families who've really bought into this idea. So I mean, who knows? I don't know.
I feel like where I'm at is I feel like I'm having trouble seeing a business model that wouldn't be just create more hurdles for people to get into the lifestyle. Like, you know, if
Yeah.
it right now it's $600 US a month to be a part of the school, roughly speaking, which
Is
is
that a
not,
good amount?
yeah, I mean, that's not chump change. Like if you have 2 kids, 3 kids, that's a solid amount of money going to school every month.
Sure.
And that's the sweet spot in terms of like our teachers are not living lavishly, but our parents feel the heat a little. Like they're average, you know, middle class-ish families in Europe and in the US. So anyways, the point is like I'm having trouble seeing a business model that isn't sort of parasitic and makes it a lot harder. But if someone has we're just kind of mulling this over. Like I don't know that we figured a whole lot out. Like we're still early on, and this is a really complicated. But if somebody has an idea for how they want to expand, I do think it's a beautiful thing that it seems like there's a lot of demand. Or at a minimum, people like the idea of being a part of it, you know. So anyways, if I think we welcome any ideas or feedback. If someone's like, hey, you know, what if we did this, I think we're open in that way. But right now we don't have plans.
Right. Well, again, this interview, hopefully people can watch this. This is like a mini workshop of how to launch a nomadic community and school. Maybe they can reach out to you and you guys can consult or something. I mean, who knows? But what advice would you give to parents who might want to, I mean, I want someone to create a teen version, but I don't want to run it. So what advice would you give to them? I have to find.
I would start with finding a solid teacher. That's my perspective, because that's kind of, I think the core of this is finding someone to partner with, to be.
Is that easier or hard? Because I did see a Facebook post in one of the Worldschooling groups, and maybe it was one family who was trying to hire a teacher to travel with them. And they said it was really hard. They were trying to find somebody in the US, and there was like all these legal issues and people were afraid to do it.
Oh,
I don't know. You found one or two.
Yeah, you know, we get applications quite a bit.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of people out in the world that would love to use their background as a teacher to travel the world and make a living wage. So I think there's plenty of demand out there for this kind of role. But yeah, there aren't good. There's not like a marketplace that you go to find traveling circus teachers or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in that way, it will be harder. But you know, I think advice would be, I think that the step one would definitely be trying to find that other person. And then step two would be really like there's only really 3 areas of our community, right? There is like enrollment into the school, there's traveling, and then community life. Like, so you just kind of need to come up with a plan to what am I going to do for education as a community? What are we going to do to gel us together? And then where are we going to go in the world? And those are really your 3 big buckets that you kind of have to figure out.
And I think it's smart you guys didn't handle the accommodation and let the families handle that, because that can be kind of a headache.
Totally. Yeah. No, I don't think we could do it without Airbnb or something like that. Like before that, this would have been entirely too difficult. So.
Yeah, I think another thing that
awesome.
would be helpful.
It's a little bit.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Lag. I think if you could find 2 or 3 other families to really get it started with you, I think that'd be helpful. I think the 2 of us kicking it off and he working at the time, me kind of trying to shift to be working, it was kind of a lot. And now that we've attracted some families who kind of self-identify really strongly with the idea, like the weight has just been like so
Awesome.
So that's another thing that would be really helpful is try to find some families who are as interested in the idea as you are.
Like
that would
founding families.
Yes.
Yeah.
The teacher.
There is a group that just started up in Asia, the World School Bucket List. I haven't had a chance to interview them yet, but I will in the future. In a few weeks, I will be interviewing the World School Hub organizers of the Bond School Hub, where I am, and Luxor, and Rachel Carlson with the World School Pop-Up, and Patty Rojas, who was running Anahata in Mexico for a while. She's kind of on hiatus right now, but she agreed to join us. I really hope there'll be more of these, whether they're permanent hubs or temporary hubs or pop-up hubs or roaming nomadic hubs. I have a comment here from Sonia V. She says, I want to start one. William and I can be teachers, because they are teachers. So they're going to be traveling around South America with their 4-year-old, probably in the next, coming year. So this, I think, would be good for them. So would they be able to reach out to you if they had any questions?
Yeah, for sure. I think we can be as helpful as we can. I'll say as just a bit of encouragement and inspiration is like, I think our initial post out to one of the world schooling groups were like, hey, I think we're having this idea. Would anyone be interested? I think we got like almost 200 comments on it, and just like a couple of within a day or two.
Facebook
and
shut it down.
And Facebook deleted the post because they thought we were like faking the activity on the post. So there's like a lot.
And we
Facebook did, or the admins of the group, the Facebook group.
I think Facebook did. Anyways, all that to say is it seems like there's a lot of demand out there, and I think it's only going to continue to grow as more and more families make money online and start to think, what the heck am I still doing in this town when I could see the rest of it?
There's a whole world out there. Yeah, I mean, again, I've been traveling for 6 years. I traveled a lot before I had kids, and I'm trying to be an advocate for world schooling, and this is why I'm doing this interview series and interviewing fascinating families like yours, or not service providers, but you guys are organizing and really feeling a need. I mean, there's such a need for community with these. I do meet families who world school by themselves, and they have loneliness issues, and their kids are unhappy, and all of that. And this is a great solution, because like you said, it's kind of a pain to enroll in local schools sometimes if you're only there for a little while. It's the world school hubs are fine, but sometimes they're not very academic, or so I think what you guys have created is really amazing. So I hope it'll grow. I will try to put your website link in the comments and your Instagram. I'm wondering what else you want me to share. Do you have any other social media that you post on regularly?
My Instagram is linked to Facebook, but
no, just
really.
that.
Just that.
Again, it's just a low-key project. So
you can join our email list. We have Adriana's going to start doing a newsletter for us.
Updates from the community. So if anybody wants to get more of an inside look on what the day-to-day looks like, that might be a good place. And you can join that.
I have a question. Sorry, somebody has a question. Sonia O says kids. So the kids right now are 5 to 10 in your group. But when your kids, the Kovac kids, are over 10, will you stop or just keep creeping up the age? What are you guys going to do?
I think we're going to creep up the ages. So, so the youngest right now is 5. And actually we have an 11-year-old in the school. So even then we've kind of ebbed and flow. Also, Adriana, our teacher now, she is a traveling mom, and she uses the traveling circus to support herself as she's traveling. And she won't be isn't able to travel full time, but she is interested in doing an older kid. She has a 12-year-old So she's going to kind of part of the year, she's going to tack on a little bit of a middle school group with us. But yeah, honestly, I think we'll kind of just age up, keep our kids kind of in the middle.
Right.
So,
and you're going to continue this for years to come because one of your kids wants a normal life. So
yeah, we're going to do the traveling circus when they're out the house and it's just us. It'll be an adult.
Hey, I've already talked to some of my World School parent friends who I've met in the last 6 years. And we've said, once our kids have flown the coop, we're going to have a empty nesters World School group.
Oh yeah.
And we'll travel together, maybe in camper vans, RVs and stuff. So awesome. I'm so glad that I got you guys to join us, and just want to see if we have any last minute questions, moms and dads out there. I know you're really curious. Maybe they can post some questions and then you guys can come in the group later. I will try to tag you if that happens. But any last minute thoughts about your community that you built, any questions I forgot to ask you that's important? I asked you a lot of questions. I hope I didn't ask you too many.
No, not at all. Yeah, I feel like my big takeaway from this experience is again, how I feel like this is a problem that other people had, and we're just kind of diving in of can we solve our own problem of get an education and community that's as mobile as we are, and we just kept rolling that over, and the idea hit and worked. And I don't know, I kind of feel like that's the kind of the lesson woven through all of this is world schooling is so new that if what you want to exist in the world doesn't exist yet, keep mulling over how to pull that off. If you don't want to be the organizer, I promise you there's other people who feel the same pain points as you do and likely would. They just didn't have the idea yet to help organize. So anyways, I think that's kind of my broader encouragement is this is you get one life, make it what you want. Don't settle for either or, try to be both and see what you come up with.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I love your attitude about this. And yeah, you guys saw not a problem, but you wanted something, you figured out the solution. And I do think it's great that we have the Facebook groups so you can kind of throw an idea out there and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. And then again, hopefully you won't get 200 responses and Facebook kick you off. That's crazy. Well, Jeremiah and Abigail, thank you so much. I know we connected through our mutual friends. A couple of my friends visited your hub in Peru, and you guys were thinking about going to Argentina, where I was at the time when we chatted. So now I'm in Bulgaria, you're in Portugal. So we've been on the same continent for a while.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Super glad to connect with you guys. And yeah, everyone's saying, I love what Jeremiah said, if it doesn't exist, create it. So that is super true. Thank you so much. And yeah, I hope that we will run into you guys in real life, and best of luck to you to continue. I mean, you're already doing such a great job, but just best wishes for it to go very smoothly and really nice. Thank you. Everybody. Hey, thanks for watching. This is Lizz Quain with Trailblazing Families. My twins and I have been traveling and world schooling for over 6 years, and I'm happy to share about our experiences. Make sure to check out the other videos on this channel. I do have a playlist of all the other interviews of other world schooling families and service providers. We're all happy to share our information and wisdom about how to best live this world schooling, digital nomad, and family travel lifestyle. If you're new to world schooling and need a bit of help, I do have a super comprehensive 12-week program on how to travel extensively as a family and how to world school, how to educate your kids. There's many different ways to do it. So reach out to me and schedule a no obligation Zoom meeting so we can have a quick chat and see if my program is a good fit for you. Thanks and happy trails.